It's so beautiful. I've been sleeping in these studios and sleeping in these hotels. I'm not cracking under pressure. I am not a taco shell. I know my music touches.
Alright, so Jams, first, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Where are you from originally?
So I was born in London. I moved here when I was about 3, like as soon as my parents could move. My mom is from here. My mom's from Chicago. She studied abroad in London. My dad's born and raised over there. And my whole family on my dad's side is still over there. And then I moved to Chicago, and my dad lived in the city and my mom lived in the burbs. So I was just always kind of between the two. And yeah.
Where'd you go to high school? Like, not even for the interview, just curiosity.
Yeah, so I went to 2 different high schools. I went to this high school in the northwest suburbs called Stevenson, which is like polar opposite of the other high school I went to in Bronzeville, which was De La Salle. Yeah, and they're like 2 different worlds. And that's really like a big piece of who I am. You know, I've definitely seen like both sides of the grass, and you know, even having like half of my family be from overseas and then my mom be kind of from the suburbs and everything, I really have like a good perspective of just both sides of the grass, you know, and like the different type of speeds. And I like hikes and nature, but I also like, you know, the city and, you know, that type of, and loud noise and all that, you know, I like the whole balance.
Yeah. Who were some of your musical inspirations growing up?
Growing up, a lot different than like when I really like fell in love with rap music, you know. Growing up, it was always like kind of like some Britpop people, like Oasis and Blur and bands like that. And then, you know, like kind of like rock music and stuff, a lot of Beatles around the house, stuff like that. My mom's a hippie. And then I got into like punk music a lot, like Rage Against the Machine and stuff like that. And I think I was more so into like the power of, you know, like what words can do and the power of music. And that's why I fell so in love with rap, when rap really hit me. And then when rap really hit me, I was super into like Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, and Outkast, really. Those were like my favorite guys. And Atmosphere too. Atmosphere I was pretty early on that. Yeah, I'm 26, so those were the guys I was really like first coming up on when I listened to music.
At what point did you start creating music?
I started making music. I've always been a writer. And then when I found out you could like mix the writing with the music, and that was like poetry to me, and that was rap. That was like about 16, 17 years old. And I put out my first song then. It was like a Vimeo video. I remember my teacher played it in class, and it was cool. I was like super embarrassed. It wasn't that good, but it was super cool. And I've always been one of those people that was like, not, in my opinion at least, not too like naturally talented and come out the womb like, you know, killing everybody with the raps, you know. It just took a lot of time to really hone in and like harness the craft and just get better, you know.
How did you come up with the name Jams Tfc?
So Jams is my first name's Jake and my last name's Samuels. So Jams is from my mom. She's always called me Jams. When people call me Jake like on the street, I don't even really like look to it, you know. Everyone always calls me Jams. And then TFC is the flavor child. And when I kind of like, I stopped making music a little bit when I was about like 22 to 23 years old. And not because I wanted to at all, I just needed to take a step back and, you know, see what I wanted to do with my career and see where I was at with everything. And when I did that, and really honed into myself, I started making like a lot of really funky music. And I think it had a lot to do with my upbringing and like the music I listened to, and a lot of that funk hippie stuff like George Clinton and P-Funk and all those type of guys, like really influenced by that. And shit, even when me and you met, I had like a 6-piece band with me, you know, so I've always kind of loved to do stuff like that. And that's kind of like where the Flavor Child angle came from, you know what I mean? And that's why like songs like Give Me Your Love or Elevate that have like a more funk pop type of vibe, you know what I mean? That's the Flavor Child angle.
So I saw that you've been working a lot with Jerm lately. How did you guys get in contact with each other?
So I met Jerm, Big Jerm, shouts out to Jerm. I met Jerm through Billy Hoyle, and Billy Hoyle, that's my dog. I stayed with him in Pittsburgh for like 3 months. And he introduced me to everybody over there, really, from Edan to Jerm to the Daily Bread guys, Refresh and DJ Afterthought, everybody, Sledgerin, everybody. So Pittsburgh's amazing, man. It's a special place musically, you know, like the Mac and Wiz legacy is super, super real and really impactful, and like it's like going to a championship team, you know. They have like hundreds of platinum plaques and stuff, so it's just cool to you kind of like shut up and listen when you get around some people like that, you know.
So you just recently dropped your album Made with Love. What was the creation process of that project like?
So Made with Love, it was the concept of Made with Love really came when I started making it. I was in a really weird place in life. I think we all were, like in quarantine, more independent than ever. And I just put out my last project called Clarity, like May 2020, and it was doing really, really well. And, you know, I made it with the people that I came up with, and I was like really ready to just like re-up and make the next project, and other people really weren't, you know. And I was kind of that age at the time, 25, where, you know, people start to look like, what about me? You know, like what do I gotta wake up to do today that's best for me, you know? And you always want to uplift the people and push them to do what's best for them. And so I kind of like for the first time was really like working by myself, and I was kind of confused like why we spent a lot of time to get to the point that we got to, and like people weren't ready to like do what it took, you know. And it became like more of an I process instead of a we process, which is really like weird for me and kind of uncomfortable. And I had to like learn how to flip that into a positive, you know. And when I started creating, I was like, what I was rapping about like how I was kind of frustrated with the dynamic of my people and just like where I was at in life, and very confused with like relationships and just like the people you dream with and everything. And then when I really like just like, man, I gotta do this, I gotta make another project, you know. And I wanted to be, you know, something I'm really proud of. And I went to Pittsburgh to go work with some new people, and I came home after doing that and really just decided like I needed to switch my whole entire frame of mind, you know. And instead of being consumed with why things weren't like exactly like I wanted them to be, I just stopped controlling everything and just let things flow. And then musically, just really in the most literal way, was just always creating with love, like never trying to prove anything to anybody, not making music for anybody but myself. And it really helped me get back to like that little kid inside my head, like the dreamer before people tell you like you need to do something like this, or you should do this with your friends, or, you know, just kind of brought me back to that real innocent place.
How did we kind of touched on it a little bit. I've noticed that there's a lot of breakfast themes throughout the project.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I love breakfast, man. You know, it's not that deep. You know, I love breakfast. Breakfast is the ultimate, like, made with love meal. Like, if you have a girl at your house and, you know, you either gonna make a breakfast or you're not. You know, like, you either showing her some love or you're not, you know. But breakfast is just like the ultimate made with love meal. I'm a big breakfast guy. I like a breakfast sampler guy, you know, like the eggs with the turkey sausage, turkey bacon, and the hash browns, you know. That's how I like to do it. And that's just like the best way to start the day. It's a wholesome way to start the day. And yeah, it's just something about like syrup on waffles that just feel like love, you know. Yeah, you know, that's about it. That's not that deep, you know, not that deep. And I love breakfast, bro. I love IHOP. I'm there a lot. Like when I'm out of town, I'm always trying to hit the IHOP, you know. I love pancakes. Yeah, it was really incidental. Like, we just kept shooting shit. It was like 3-4 times in a row. It just happened to be breakfast shit. And then I was actually going to call Made with Love Pancakes. Remember that? I was going to call it Pancakes. And, we were just eating a lot of breakfast at the time, you know? And it feels the same, like, because pancakes are just made with love, you know? Yeah. But, yeah, that's it.
What's your favorite breakfast place in Chicago?
Ooh, man, maybe 11 City Diner or Manny's Deli. Those are classic spots, super good spots. Cafe Kalau in Humboldt Park. That's probably my favorite breakfast sandwich. Shouts out to them. The Three House got some really good breakfast. And IHOP, bro. You know, don't get too fancy. I love IHOP. You know, the breakfast sampler, bro. $10 holla, 10 out of 10.
So a couple of years ago, you and KOTA went on a string of shows. What was that experience like?
It was my first ever tour. So, you know, first and foremost, there was that, like, just popping that cherry. Man, where to start, bro? Tour is such a dream come true. Like, just waking up and doing what you love every day at, like, the highest form you could do it. It's addicting because you're really, like, the ultimate best version of yourself at that point. And so that was amazing. KOTA himself was really inspiring as an artist. He's somebody that really blazes his own path, and I don't, like, you can't really be like KOTA sounds like anybody else. And I kind of think I'm the same type of artist, and it was really inspiring and kind of like reaffirming, you know, to see somebody do that in that capacity. And he was selling out shows like 400 or 500 people, just being himself, like not sacrificing or compromising anything. You know, it was really cool to see that, and just connecting with fans like that on that type of level was like something that was really necessary for me at that point in my career, and kind of gave me this like new type of momentum and resurgence and energy. And yeah, it was amazing, bro. KOTA's an amazing dude too. Super good artist.
Is it true that you worked as like a waiter / busboy in Chinatown?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very true. About 10 minutes from here. But when I was in Bronzeville, that was like the closest place to really work. So I walk over to Chinatown on Cermak. And yeah, that's where I was working. I grew up with like a lot of Korean homies and just a lot of Asian homies in general. So I always loved Chinatown. I love Chinatown in all different cities, but Chicago's got a good Chinatown. And yeah, I always worked in Chinatown at a few different restaurants, the Korean restaurants, the Chinese restaurants. And yeah, man, that's what I was doing. I was waking up at like 7 in the morning, riding my bike over there. It might be like middle of the winter, whatever it was, and going over there. And I would make like, if anybody watching this knows anything about Korean food, it's called a banchan, and you make like all the Korean little like appetizers, so to say, and if they were like to-go orders, you fold them up in these pieces of tinfoil. It was not fun, you know. I'd be in like the kimchi freezer at like 9 a.m. And yeah, it wasn't fun, you know.
So I've heard that you have a strong passion for comic books. When did that start?
I've always loved comic books. I always loved them. It's funny actually. The reason it really started, man, my mom, shout out to mom, she's like a slight klepto. Like she steals shit all the time. And like little shit, you know, like $10 sunglasses and stuff. But she, when I was younger, me and her stole like a comic book one time at this comic store, and it was just like this cool memory that I had. And I like went home with that comic book and like put it in the little, you know, like the binder sheet, and I just always loved them after that. And I was more into like collecting them than reading them. These days I'm the opposite. Like I'm not very into like Marvel and DC. I'm more so into like independent comics like Image and Dark Horse, and like that new comic Invincible that's on, I think it's on Amazon. Like that was one of my favorite superhero comics, but that's an indie comic. But yeah, man, probably for like since I was a kid for real. I still have all the comics, you know. I'm a real nerd. Like when I tell people that, and then they come to my house, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, you a nerd," you know. Yeah, I love comics. I like reading in general, man. I read a lot of books, a lot of comics. Gotta stay sharp, you know.
All right, so there's always that conversation, right, when talking about the Chicago music community, where it's like, "Oh, Chicago's missing this, whatever New York has, or whatever Atlanta has, or LA."
Yeah.
What do you think is missing in Chicago's music community?
Man, it's a good question. It's a good question. I think what's missing in Chicago's music scene, my old manager, like the first manager I ever had in music, he used to tell me like there's no Capitol Records on Michigan Avenue. And I was like, yeah, duh, like whatever. And then I got older and I was like, you're trying to climb a ladder of sorts, you know, or you're trying to like, you know, put your energy to a certain pocket. And sometimes you find out like that the ladder you climbing might not be worth it. Like I think the stuff that's over here in Chicago, that's like all the way at the tippy top of the ladder, that's like the real distributing the opportunities on a major level, aren't that big, like unfortunately, you know what I'm saying? And we like are told that we have to leave Chicago to like make something happen or whatever, and unfortunately, you know, as I get a little bit older, like, it's kind of true, you know, because, and I never wanted to believe that, you know, when I was younger, I wanted to, like, put on the Superman cape and, you know, be the dude that stayed in Chicago and everything, and you see people like Chance do that, and Vic and all those guys, and it's super respect to them and a lot of love to them, and it just seems like, I don't know, the artists that leave Chicago for a little bit, you know, just do a little bit better in, like, the commercial space, but that's the commercial space. You might not want that, and I think that's what's beautiful about Chicago. I think Chicago people get to a certain point where they're aware, like, okay, I could leave Chicago and then, you know, go bite this other apple, but I like what I'm eating right now. Like, I love Chicago. And I think that's what makes Chicago beautiful. Like, we all kind of know that we can go to other places, but, you know, something, like, really deep within us makes us want to stay here. You know what I mean? And that's, that's Chicago, you know, the Chicago music scene. I also think, like, for some reason, you know, you listen to a lot of music like this, I would assume, just the conversations that we had, like the Nipseys and, like, the Currencies and, like one of my good friends in LA, his name's Polyester the Saint, and, like, artists like that, for whatever reason, don't exist here. I don't know why. I really have no idea why. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why, like, a Jet Life or, like, a Taylor Gang, like, or something. That we have, like, the Save Money guys and stuff. But I don't know why that stuff, like, doesn't exist here. I don't really have an answer for it. You know? Yeah, I don't know why. You know?
So this weekend you have that pop-up at JP Graziano's. Can you just kind of explain the concept around it? Yeah, so JP Graziano, shout out to him. He's like my second dad, man. When I was like 15, 16, like selling weed in the West Loop on the L, that was like the spot you would go because he had like the $10 sandwich, you know, and everything over there was like way too expensive, you know, so you would always go over there. And so I've had like a, 10-year relationship with him, man. He's like my second dad, and he's giving me a lot of advice in my life. He's somebody I look to like that. And I love what he stands for in Chicago. So to do an event with him is really cool. So I'm going to do a custom sandwich, a custom JP's and Jam sandwich. And then I'm going to perform with the band on the street. And it's going to be called Made with Love at Midnight. And yeah, it'll be like a little block party, summertime Chicago with the band and yeah, stuff like that. I think like you asking like what's missing in Chicago, I think like events like that, they're just really cool. They don't have any like alternative motive. Like they really just have a good time, play good music, no clout tickets, no VIP stamps. Like you just show up and have a good time. People from all over the place, like no judging, just good energy and a good environment. I think Chicago needs a lot more of that. And I know that's like what Chicago means to all of us, and I think there just needs to be more people putting stuff forward like that. Who are some artists that you want to work with in the future?
Man, that's a loaded question, fully loaded. Off top, man, I'd say like dream features, like dream collabs, be Wayne, would definitely be Wayne. I saw like Polo G just got a Wayne verse, that was super cool. But Wayne, obviously Jay, Kanye and Kendrick and Cole, like those dudes would be the dream features. But like to really sit in there and like lock in and make music, I've always wanted to work with Anderson .Paak and like the Free Nationals dudes. I love all those dudes. And like Sid from the internet, like I love all that type of music. I love how they get down. And I'm actually low-key, the guys that just made, like the guy that mixed my last album really was a dream. Edan, he mixed like all the Mac Miller and all the Wizard stuff. That was a little dream come true for me for sure. And to get like the beats from Jerm and everything, But we'll see, I like to make music with people I have like a sort of intimate connection with, that's what music means to me. So hopefully, opportunities like that present itself, but I never want to force it,
And then the last question I had for you is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Man, one of the biggest artists in the world for sure. I want to dream big and unapologetically and big part of like Made with Love for me was just like I said, rediscovering like that kid dreamer within me, and before like anybody told you that you couldn't do something, And I think if you asked me that question like a year or two ago, I'd have like a much more humble response to it. And these days, man, I'm just really back to like dreaming unapologetically, like as big as you can, and just visualizing those headline festival stages, and not like doing any type of local shows, and just doing it as big as you can, man, and just keep moving things forward, man, moving the culture forward, making the best music you could possibly make, and just standing for being yourself, that'll always stand the test of time, and that's what I'm all about. So 5 years from today, I plan to be doing things on like an A-list, extremely big scale, but still be myself.
You could walk on water till they tell you that you can't. I'll meet you in the heavens, on the stars, we could dance and forget everything we know. I've been dancing dancing, I've been dancing all alone. I've been dancing in the puddle, making the ugly look